So this is nice. Came down from there. I'm glad my brakes are adjusted the way they are and my tires and my shock was on. I came from Transition Society area and I didn't turn left, I turned right to come this way, so I don't know where it goes left, but I'd like to find out for next time where it begins or ends somewhere else. Anyways, I'm gonna continue to read. See, this reminds me of Korea a little bit, except they've really mastered the concept of not diverting water needlessly, but to actually just make more useful ways to make it go certain places or not, without really controlling it, except for just, it's cold, it's a little bit wet. Managing the seasons of when it's wet or not, and sometimes they make mistakes and a lot of it is automated and still. Okay, so I'll get back to where I was. Let's call this a part 2, let's say. I'm gonna pay attention with my ears as I read. Assuming the hill people don't just shoot you as you drop by, diplomatic pouch in hand, I said. Bender smiled at me and pointed vigorously. See, that's exactly it. We assume that our opposite numbers have the same warlike perspective as we do. But what if? What if? The door was open to diplomacy, even just a crack. Would not intelligent, sentient species choose to walk through that door? Let's take, for example, the Wade people. We're about to war on them, aren't we? Indeed we are. The Wadians and humans had been circling each other for more than a decade, fighting over the Earnhardt system, which featured 3 planets habitable to both our people. Systems with multiple inhabitable planets were fairly rare. The Wadians were tenacious, but also relatively weak. Their network of planets was small, and most of their industry was still concentrated on their homeworld. Since the Wade would not take the hint and stay out of the Earnhardt system, the plan... Still recording, that's good. Was to skip to Wade's space, smash their spaceport and major industrial zones, and set their expansionary capabilities back a couple of decades or so. By the way, I don't know much about is it the Houthi? I'm not sure. The people that have been kind of bombing a little bit in rebelling or protesting, and I say a little bit, like compared to Israel and the United States, yes, they're bombing a little bit. And they're bombing a little bit because somebody's got to take the chances they're taking to respect the genocide that's happening against Palestinians that hardly anybody is kind of doing things about. So what they're doing, would make kind of people that are sick with either jingoism or patriotism, definitely with Manifest Destiny of the USA or Zionism, they think those people have to be destroyed. Except those people are acting this way because you've done things 100,000 times worse and for generations. So, and I'm not saying I know the history of the people doing this, but I'm saying what they're doing now, and they're posting it, and people even in Canada have access to their recordings. Like the fact that we find it unacceptable, let's say that something that's not delivering aid to Gaza, but that's, let's say, delivering aid to mass murderers, or that's delaying a cargo ship filled with useless pieces of plastic. Like we have to decide a little bit more, like to pay attention or to make efforts when we kind of want to judge who the good guys of history and the bad guys of history are. Okay, it was to skip to Wade's... Okay, where am I? I'm going to press pause. So the plan was to skip the Wade space, smash their spaceport and major industrial zones, and set their expansionary capabilities back a couple of decades or so. And by the way, that's what, you know, who you think you are as good guys, but you're the bad guys are doing. The 233rd would be part of the task force that was set to land in their capital city and tear the place up a bit. We were to avoid killing civilians when we could, but otherwise knock a few holes in their parliament houses and religious gathering centers and so on. There was no industrial advantage to doing this, but it sends the message that we can mess with them anytime just because we feel like it. It shakes them up. By the way, you can mess with them by showing up, aiming, and leaving. Okay, the fact that you would do these things, that you say, oh, we're nice to them doing just this, makes you sick in the head, right? It doesn't make you a civilized species. But also, if you did show up, point guns, and retreat just to show your force, it would be because they refused negotiating. And the negotiation must be that you didn't screw up for needing the things that they have or that they want also, right? Like if a people is more in need, and let's say their need is not based on their history because they screwed up their own resources, then that should count too, right? So there was no industrial advantage to doing this, but it sends the message that we can mess with them anytime just because we feel like it. It shakes them up. What about them? Viverus asked. Well, I've done a little research into these people, Bender said. They've got a remarkable culture, you know. Their highest art form is a form of mass chant that's like a Gregorian round. They'll get an entire city full of Wadians and start chanting. It's said you can hear the chant for dozens of clicks, and the chants can go on for hours. So, okay, so I'm not going to do a spoiler thing and tell you what happens, okay? And then at some point you'll read this and you'll think, see, the colonial defense forces were right to do this. And again, you're going to realize later that the soldiers that do survive longer realize, no, it's still not right. Now, by the way, do you know who chants for you can hear their chants for dozens of clicks, and the chants can go on for hours? Well, supposedly it's the rallies of President Trump.